I'll be going through the answers quickly, so make sure your course book is open and in front of you. And please stop and rewind the video as you need to. So, got your book open in front of you? Are your answers in capitals? Want to know why the answers are the answers? Then let's go. For question number 1, the key word is the preposition after the gap to, because only one of the answers collocates with that preposition. You are unaware of something, you cannot be unconscious to something, and you're just unconscious. You are ignorant of something, but you are oblivious to something, which is why the answer is C. For question number 2, there are 2 things that we've got to be aware of. One helpful, one very important. The helpful thing is after the gap, which is from to. Not all of the answers can work with from to, so that helps us eliminate 1 or 2 answers. The key word, though, is the word before the gap, which is species. Which one of these answers collocates with species given the from to context? Well, there's only one possible answer, and that is A, ranging. For question number 3, pure vocabulary question. If you don't know this expression, then I encourage you to use it because it's great to use it with time as it's used in this particular context. And that is within the space of. If you don't know that now, you do. If you didn't know that before, you know it now. So remember that because it comes up from time to time in the use of English paper. For question number 4, you have to understand the context of where this sentence is going. Because of course, before you attempted to answer this exercise, you read through the whole text, didn't you? I bet you did. And that means if you did that, you would be aware of the particular type of sentence structure that we've got here. And that is a subclause followed by a main clause. If you can identify a subclause and the main clause, then you should be able to identify the relationship between the subclause and the main clause. And the relationship is easy to understand if you understand what kind of subordinate conjunction you use. Now, the subordinate conjunction goes at the beginning of the subordinate clause, which is exactly where this gap is here. What's the relationship that we need? Or what's the relationship that's being discussed? Well, it's one of contrast. So that means we need a contrast subordinate conjunction. So if we have a look at the answers, whilst, yes, that ticks our box. Yet is a conjunction, not a subordinate conjunction. So here, this is not our answer. However is a transition or a linker. It's not a subordinate conjunction. Despite is a subordinate conjunction, and yes, it also suggests the idea of contrast, but what isn't here is the language pattern that's needed with despite, which is why it's not the answer. The answer is A. Question number 5, what's the context? The context is the animals are escaping. If they're escaping, we need a piece of vocabulary from the answers to communicate that message. We've got vanished, well, you vanish from somewhere. You've got fled, which means escape or run away. You've got disappear, but you disappear from somewhere. You escape, but you escape from somewhere. After number 5, we've got no prepositions at all. So if we haven't got any prepositions, we've got to use the answer which doesn't need a preposition, which is B, fled. For question number 6, the key word here is earthquake. The answer that we choose has got to collocate with earthquake. Where does an earthquake take place? Well, we talk about the site of an earthquake, and that's exactly why D is the answer here. For question number 7, we've got to be aware of the context here. If we understand the context, we'll get the answer. What the context for number 7 is basically saying is what this means is very interesting. So we need a piece of vocabulary which somehow refers to the meaning of something, possibly thinking about results, possibly thinking about how we understand something. Well, which piece of vocabulary communicates this? Well, it's not expectations, propositions, or assumptions. The answer is D, implications. For question number 8, the key word is the preposition after the gap. If we have a look at that preposition in terms of the answers, let's see which ones work, which ones don't work. Approaching to? No. You approach something. Prior to? That works. Previous to, it does work, but only in certain circumstances. Previous to an event, previous to something happening. It doesn't work, however, in this particular sentence. Previous to a potentially dangerous seismic activity in the same way. No, it doesn't work. Leading up to something. Of course, up isn't in the text. So what's the answer that we've got here? B, prior to a potentially dangerous seismic activity, ...